She said he is back, and I think we should just be friends, and left me for her ex. I said all right. 3 months later, she showed up at my doorstep in Montana, crying that her dream project collapsed. She thought I would wait around. My girlfriend Zara and I were together for 2 years. We lived in Astoria, Oregon, right near the coast. She is a documentary filmmaker who makes viral films about authenticity. I am a senior infrastructure engineer for a renewable energy company. Different worlds, but it worked. She brought spontaneity, and I gave her stability. Or that is what I told myself. We were planning to buy a cabin near Cannon Beach, looking at listings on weekends, talking about which rooms would work for her editing setup. It felt like we were building something real. Then 4 months ago, her ex Reed messaged her, former war photojournalist, just back from Afghanistan with an idea for a climate change documentary series. She said he wanted her input on logistics. I said it sounded cool. That was my first mistake, not trusting her but not paying attention. Over the next weeks, she left earlier, came home later, stopped asking about my work completely. We used to talk about the microgrid project I was developing for rural communities. She used to care. Then suddenly, it was like talking to a wall. One night at dinner, her phone lit up. Reed with a camera emoji and new footage is insane. I said I was happy she felt inspired again. She said, "You do not have to sound like my dad, Eli." That stung more than I want to admit. She went back to her laptop. I cleaned up alone. That was when I knew she was already gone. 2 weeks later, she came home late and said we needed to talk. You can feel it when someone is about to end things. The air gets still and cold. She sat on the couch. I sat in the chair across from her. She looked at me and said, "I think we should just be friends. You deserve someone who is as sure about this as you are." I nodded. "Okay." She looked confused. "That is it?" "Yeah. You have already left. I am just catching up." I walked to the key rack, took her key off my keyring, set it on the table, grabbed my jacket and left. No slamming doors, no yelling, just left. I stayed at a motel, then crashed with a friend, kept expecting her to text or call or show up saying she made a mistake. Radio silence. Here is what I keep thinking about. She said I deserved someone. Sure, but what she meant was she wanted to chase excitement and I was too stable. Too boring. Reed was adventure and chaos. I was bills and retirement accounts. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was not exciting enough. But maybe I dodged something. If she could walk away that easily after 2 years, after all those talks about building a life together, what was I holding on to? A version of her that only existed when convenient. My friends say I did the right thing. My mom says I should have fought harder. I do not know. I went home 3 days later for my stuff and she was gone. Moved out completely. Left the key on the counter with a note that said sorry. She wanted to be friends, I said. All right. Now I am sitting here wondering if I should feel relieved or heartbroken or angry. Honestly, I just feel numb. Am I crazy for not fighting? Should I have done something different? Update 4 months have passed since that first post. A lot has happened. After Zara moved out, I spent a week in a fog, going to work, sitting in meetings, nodding along, then coming home to my friend's couch staring at my phone waiting for a text that never came. I kept checking her social media even though I knew it was bad. She posted about the documentary with Reed, all these buzzwords about authenticity and chasing your truth that sounded profound but meant nothing. Then something shifted. My company offered me a temporary 6-month relocation to Montana. Pilot program developing microgrids for off-grid communities. Normally I would have said no because Zara and I had our life in Oregon, but suddenly there was no reason to stay. So I said yes. I drove to Montana in early March, cold, gray, landscape big and empty matching how I felt inside. The project was based near Bitterroot Valley. My job was installing and maintaining solar arrays and wind turbines for communities too remote for traditional power. The work was hard. Long days outside, troubleshooting equipment, working with local contractors. But it was what I needed. Something grounding about physical work, solving tangible problems instead of overthinking a dead relationship. I stopped posting on social media completely, started hiking alone on weekends, bought a cheap drone and filmed the landscape. Ecological damage from old mining. Erosion patterns. Weirdly therapeutic. 2 months into Montana, I started working with the field legal counsel, Naomi Brooks, environmental policy compliance, permitting issues. We had crossed paths in Oregon but never worked directly together. Naomi is sharp, scary, smart. Dry, sarcastic humor delivered completely deadpan. We would be at remote sites, and she would make comments about regulatory absurdities, and I would not realize she was joking until I saw the tiny smile. We started having long conversations after work. Nothing romantic at first. Two people stuck in the middle of nowhere talking about life. She would bring whiskey to the campfire after long days, and we would argue about environmental policy and what it meant to build something that lasted. She never asked about Zara directly, but I think she could tell I was working through something. One night I mentioned a relationship that ended badly. She just nodded and said people leave when they realize you are not a supporting character in their story. You are the protagonist in your own. Simple, but it hit hard. Meanwhile, I kept a distant eye on Zara's social media. At first, the documentary seemed fine. Posts about crowdfunding, scouting locations, most important work of her career. Then around month 3 things shifted. Posts became less frequent, more defensive. Long captions about authentic storytelling being punished by capitalist structures. People in comments pointed out maybe the problem was not capitalism, but lack of clear narrative focus. She responded with increasingly emotional arguments about people not understanding her vision. Then, a sponsor pulled out. Someone in the film community posted about it and tagged Zara, concerned about budget overruns and creative differences. Zara went on an Instagram story rant about corporations, not caring about real stories. I did not feel satisfaction seeing that. More like resignation. Of course it was falling apart. Reed was impossible to work with. Built his career on being a lone wolf, now supposed to collaborate on structured documentary with timelines and budgets. Never going to work. Around this time, something happened with my Montana project. We got this experimental microgrid online for a community off the main grid for decades. Installation was complicated, but we did it. System came online in late May and worked beautifully. Clean, reliable power for people relying on diesel generators for years. Local news covered it. Then Regional Sustainability Organization, then National Publication about Innovative Renewable Solutions in Rural America. Company got a significant grant to expand, and I got named lead engineer on expansion. Naomi told me about the grant. We were going over compliance paperwork when she pulled up the announcement and slid her laptop over. I read it. She said, "You built something that will outlast all of us. That matters." We started dating officially a week later, not dramatic. Out doing site inspection, caught in rainstorm, waited it out in the truck watching water pour down the windshield. She said, "I think we should acknowledge this stopped being just professional." I said, "Yeah, you are right." She leaned over and kissed me. That was it. Completely different from Zara. No chaos or drama or constant validation. Just two people who understood each other. We did not post about it, did not make announcements. It was ours. I have not heard from Zara since that note on the counter, but I know she knows about Montana because mutual acquaintances work in overlapping fields. I am sure word got around. I do not know how she feels, and honestly, I do not care anymore. What I learned is you cannot build a life with someone always chasing the next exciting thing. Eventually, they run out of things to chase and are left in the wreckage of everything they abandoned. Zara is not a bad person. She just does not know how to be still, does not know how to appreciate what she has until it is gone. I am staying in Montana through year-end for expansion. Naomi is staying too. We are building something real. Update 2 Montana project going incredibly well. We expanded the microgrid program to 3 communities and results exceeded projections. Company is rolling out similar programs in other states. Naomi and I presented at a Denver conference last month. Response was overwhelming. Personally, things are good too. Naomi and I moved into a cabin outside Missoula. Good light, wood stove. Enough space for both of us to work from home. We do not talk about the future in grand terms. We just show up for each other. I had not thought about Zara in months. Stopped checking her social media in July. Weight lifted. Then 2 weeks ago, she showed up at my field office. I was at my desk going through reports when someone asked the receptionist if Eli Mercer was available. I recognized the voice. Stomach dropped. Walked to the lobby, and there she was. Thinner, dark circles makeup could not cover, but still that magnetic energy. She said hey with a small sad smile. I just stood there. Then said, "What are you doing here?" She said, "Filming a documentary about rural resilience and renewable energy. Heard about the Montana program. Wanted to include it. Great story about innovation and sustainability. All the buzzwords." I did not buy it. If she was really there professionally, she would have gone through official channels, contacted PR. Showing up unannounced was personal. I told her she needed to submit a formal request through PR. She said okay, but also could we grab coffee and catch up? I said I did not think that was a good idea. She looked hurt, said she just wanted to talk. Against better judgment, I agreed to meet that afternoon. Texted Naomi to let her know. She just sent a thumbs up and said, "Let me know if you need backup." That is who she is. No jealousy, no drama, just trust. We sat at a coffee shop trying too hard to be rustic. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, overpriced pour over. She ordered complicated oat milk drink. I got black coffee. Small talk for a few minutes. She asked about the project. I gave her the overview. Long silence. She was working up to something. Finally, she said, "You really meant it. You really let go." I said, "You asked me to." She said, "I know, but I thought." She stopped, shook her head. "I thought you would wait. I thought you would fight for me, or at least be angry, but you just walked away like it was easy." I told her it was not easy. One of the hardest things I ever did. But I was not going to fight for someone who decided I was not enough, not going to beg someone to stay who wanted to leave. She started crying, quiet tears running down her face. She said Reed left, hooked up with a producer in Denver, and bailed on the project. She tried salvaging the documentary alone, but it was falling apart. Funding gone, narrative incoherent. Months of her life and thousands of dollars on something that was never going to work. Because Reed cared more about the next thrill than finishing anything. She said, "I thought I needed chaos to feel alive, but it just ate me alive. I chased excitement and lost the one stable thing I had." I did not know what to say. Part of me felt bad, part angry. She expected sympathy. Mostly just distant, like watching this happen to someone else. I said, "I am sorry that happened, but I do not think there is anything I can do. You made your choice. I made mine. We are both living with consequences." She asked if I was seeing anyone. I said yes. She asked if it was serious. I said, "Yeah, it is." She nodded, wiped her eyes. "I deserve that. I deserve that. I know I do." "No, you were right. I was wrong." I told her I did not need her to tell me I was right. I was not keeping score. I just wanted us both to move on and be happy, even if that meant not being in each other's lives. We finished coffee. Awkward goodbyes in the parking lot. She said, "Take care." I said, "You too." She got in her car and drove away. I sat in my truck processing, called Naomi and told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I was done, she said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Honestly, I feel okay." Seeing Zara did not make me want her back. Just confirmed I made the right decision. She is still chasing something she will never find, and I am done being collateral damage. Naomi said good, then told me to come home because she was making dinner. That night, Naomi heard a car pull up outside. She looked out and saw Zara sitting in her car in our driveway, just sitting there staring at the cabin. Naomi grabbed a jacket and went outside. She told me later, Zara said she was waiting for a ride because her car broke down. Naomi did not believe her but invited her inside for coffee anyway because it was cold. They sat at the kitchen table. Naomi made coffee. They had civil but tense conversation. Naomi said Zara kept looking around, cataloging everything. The wood stove, bookshelves, simple furniture. Naomi's case files next to my equipment reports. Finally, Zara said, "You two really work, do you not? Like you actually understand each other?" Naomi said, "Yes, we do." Zara said, "Eli used to look at me like I was the most fascinating person in the world, like I was this creative genius. He could never understand. I loved that. Loved feeling mysterious and special." Naomi said, "That sounds exhausting." Zara laughed. "Yeah, it was. Turns out mysterious just means inconsistent and special means self-centered." She said, "You are lucky. He is a good person." Naomi said, "I know. That is why I am with him." They finished coffee. Naomi offered to call a tow truck. Zara said she would be fine and left. Naomi told me all this when I got home. I shook my head, said thank you for handling that. She said there was nothing to handle. Zara was just someone who did not know what she had until too late and now had to live with that. Zara left Montana the next day. I blocked her on social media not from anger but for closure. I do not need to know what she is doing. That part of my life is over. What I learned is some people only love the idea of you. They love how you make them feel or the stability you provide. But they do not see you as a full person with your own needs. Zara loved the version of me that existed to support her ambitions, not the real me, the guy who wanted to build microgrids and argue about policy over campfire whiskey. Naomi sees me. She challenges me and supports me and makes me laugh, does not need me to be anything other than who I am. That is real partnership. I think I am done updating. Time to move forward. Final update: almost 3 months since Zara showed up in Montana. A lot has changed. I figured you deserve to know how this ends. Montana microgrid project wrapped successfully in December. Hit every target, exceeded most. Expansion rolling out in 6 other states. Talk of federal funding to scale nationally. Company promoted me to lead a new division focused on rural renewable infrastructure. More responsibility and travel, but exactly the work I want. Naomi and I relocated back to the Oregon coast in January. Found a place near Yaquina Head Lighthouse, right on the water where you can watch storms roll in. Close enough to main office, remote enough for space. Not rushing anything. No engagement announcements or wedding planning. Just living our lives together feels exactly right. We do not post much on social media. Once in a while Naomi shares a site visit photo or I post about renewable energy work, low-key. Hours last week Naomi posted a picture she took of me at dawn. I was up on a coastal bluff repairing a broken wind sensor. Older turbines we maintain. Light coming up over ocean. Everything had that orange gold quality at sunrise. I did not know she had taken it until she showed me. She posted it with caption, "Patience is a form of faith." No context, just that line and image. Within an hour, normal engagement. Colleagues commenting about the project, friends reacting to scenery, normal stuff. Then I saw Zara had liked the photo, almost missed it. Her profile picture was different. Did not recognize the account at first, but definitely her. She liked the post, then unliked it 30 seconds later like she had not meant to interact. I checked her profile out of curiosity. Basically empty, no posts, no followers, no activity. She had wiped it clean. Bio just said filmmaker with no links or contact. Few hours later her entire account disappeared. Not deactivated where you can reactivate. Fully deleted where the username does not exist. Naomi noticed too, said that is intense. I said yeah, we did not talk much about it. What is there to say? Zara saw the life I was building without her, and it was too much. Seeing proof I was not just okay but genuinely happy must have been final confirmation she made the wrong choice. Deleting her entire online presence was her way of retreating completely from a world where she had to watch other people succeed while she struggled. I felt sad for her, honestly. Not patronizing but genuine. Zara is not a bad person. She just got caught up in what her life should look like, and sabotaged what it actually was. Chased excitement and chaos thinking that was what creativity required. Burned bridges, thinking that was artistic integrity. Now left with nothing except a failed project and a social media account she felt compelled to delete because watching others' happiness was too painful. I do not hate her, not even angry anymore, just feel free. Few days after the account deletion, I was out on the coastal trail with Naomi, walking at dusk, watching fog roll in over ocean, wind turbines on the ridge behind us humming steadily, that low rhythmic sound I associate with productive work. Sound that means things functioning the way they should, energy being converted and distributed to people who need it. I stopped walking, stood there looking at the water. Naomi stopped too, asked what I was thinking. I said thinking about how you cannot save people from the storms they chase. Some people always choose chaos over stability because chaos feels like freedom, but eventually chaos destroys everything, including the person who craved it. Naomi put her hand in mine, said no, you cannot save them, but you can build something that outlasts the storms, build something solid enough that it is still standing when chaos finally burns itself out. That hit me hard, clarifying way. That is exactly what I had been doing this past year without really articulating it. building systems that outlast any individual drama, building relationships that do not require constant validation or excitement to survive, building a life based on showing up consistently instead of chasing the next thrill. Zara is probably somewhere trying to figure out her next move. Maybe she will finish that documentary. Maybe find a project that works. Maybe meet someone else and try to build a life that does not implode. I genuinely hope she finds whatever she is looking for. Hope she learns to be still long enough to appreciate what she has instead of always searching for something better. But that is not my concern anymore. My concern is standing next to me holding my hand. My concern is the turbines generating clean energy. My concern is showing up tomorrow and doing good work and coming home to someone who sees me for exactly who I am. I learned a lot from this. Learned that walking away with dignity is not giving up. Learned some people only love the idea of you, and that is not enough to build on. Learned real partnership does not require drama or chaos or constant intensity. Just requires two people willing to show up even when it is boring, when it is hard, when there is no audience. Also learned you cannot force someone to value you. Zara did not value what we had until it was gone. By then too late. Not my fault, not my responsibility to fix. She made choices. I made mine, both living with outcomes.